You were told this house is the biggest asset you'll ever own. No one told you it might also be the biggest leak. Somewhere under that beautiful roof, under the paint and the porch light, there's a faucet no one talks about. Dripping. Slow. Quiet. Each drop is a dollar you'll never see again. Before we meet Mark, if you've ever believed a house was the one guaranteed road to getting rich, drop a me in the comments and hit subscribe. Because what comes next might have you pulling up your own bank statement tonight. Monday morning. Coffee's still too hot to drink. Mark opens his banking app the way he does every payday, half out of habit, half out of hope. It's the 28th. And the number staring back at him is almost the same as last month. Almost the same as the month before that. He has the house. He has the car. He has the job his college roommates still ask him about at reunions. On paper, Mark is winning. By every measure someone once handed him. He did everything right. But he can't remember the last time he moved money into his investment account. Not this month. Maybe not last month either. And that's the part that quietly gets under his skin. If he's doing everything right, why does there never seem to be anything left over? To understand why Mark is stuck, we have to go back 18 months. To the day he thought he'd just made the smartest decision of his life. At first, it felt like winning. Keys in hand, boxes half unpacked, that new paint smell still in the air. But somewhere around month 3, a pattern started to show up. One nobody had warned him about. The mortgage was never the surprise. It was everything living quietly around it. The property tax bill that landed bigger than expected, the homeowner's insurance renewal that crept up without explanation. Then the water heater dying on a Tuesday, of course, because it's never a Tuesday when you have room in the budget. HOA fees. A lawn that needed more than he thought a lawn could need. Small things. Constant things. Every month brought a fresh, small emergency. And every month Mark told himself the same quiet lie. Next month will be different. Next month never was. One night, 11 o'clock, he's standing in the garage with a furnace repair bill in one hand and his phone lights up in the other. Friends, planning a weekend trip. He looks at the invoice. He looks at the message. He types out the same words he's typed 3 times this year. Can't make it this time. Next one for sure. He puts the phone face down on the workbench and just stands there for a second. In a garage that's supposed to be part of his biggest asset, feeling like it's slowly asking more of him than it's giving back. Mark figured this was just a rough stretch, a few unlucky months in a row. What he hadn't noticed yet was that these weren't a few unlucky drops. They were adding up to something much bigger than any single repair bill could explain. Let's pull back from the garage for a second, because the real cost of these 18 months was never the repair bills. It was something quieter, something Mark couldn't see on any single statement. Every dollar that went into the house was a dollar that didn't go anywhere else. Not lost, exactly, just redirected, month after month, into a place where it couldn't grow. Here's what that might look like over time. Imagine setting aside just $300 a month, invested consistently, earning an average return over 20 years. That could grow into something well over $150,000. Not from a windfall, but simply from time and consistency doing their quiet work. This is just an illustrative example to help you understand the power of long-term compounding. Your actual results will depend on your income, expenses, returns, and investment choices. Now think about a friend Mark's age. Let's call her Priya. Same income, same city, different choice. She rented a smaller place, kept her costs predictable, and put that difference into her investments every single month without fail. No repair bills at midnight. No surprise HOA increases. Just a quiet, boring habit repeated on schedule. Today, Priya has a fully funded emergency fund and a portfolio that's been growing in the background for years. Mark has a house with his name on the deed. On paper, he owns something. In practice, he has less freedom than she does. Less room to breathe. Less room to choose. He didn't lose money in any way he could point to. He lost a version of his future that was quietly available to him the whole time. But wait, none of this means buying the house was a mistake. To really understand what happened here, we have to ask a question almost nobody thinks to ask. Where did this advice even come from? Rewind for a moment, not to Mark's story, but further back, to the world his parents bought their first house in. Back then, home prices sat much closer to what people actually earned. Interest rates moved differently. A mortgage payment often landed lower than rent, sometimes by a wide margin. Buying a home wasn't just shelter. It was a kind of forced savings account, one that quietly grew in value year after year, while you simply lived your life inside it. In that world, buy a house to build wealth wasn't just good advice. It was true. It worked, reliably, for millions of people because the math underneath it made sense. The advice didn't fail. The world it was built for changed underneath it. Somewhere along the way, the gap between what it costs to own and what it costs to rent stretched wider than it used to be. Home prices started outrunning paychecks. The forced savings account got a lot more expensive to open. And nobody sent out a memo updating the advice. So when Mark feels behind, it's tempting for him to think he did something wrong. He didn't. He was simply playing by the rules of a game that had already changed its terms without telling him. Here's the real shift in thinking, the one that actually matters. A home you live in isn't automatically an asset. It isn't automatically a liability either. What it actually is depends entirely on one question. Is it putting money back into your life, or is it quietly pulling money out? There's a real difference between a house as a place to live, which is a completely legitimate human decision, and a house as your only strategy for getting rich, which is a financial decision that deserves a much closer look. Wealth was never really about owning a thing. It's about the cash flow you control, the choices that stay open to you, the freedom to say yes to a weekend trip without doing mental math in a garage at 11 at night. For Mark, this understanding didn't arrive through a spreadsheet or a financial advisor's lecture. It arrived on a completely ordinary evening. One evening, Mark didn't open the banking app the way he usually did, bracing himself, half dreading the number. Instead, he opened a blank note and started writing, not a budget, not yet. Just where everything actually went. Every subscription, every bill, every small forgettable charge that added up to something he'd never once looked at altogether. For the first time, he actually saw the flow. Not to punish himself over coffee runs or cancel anything out of guilt, but to ask a completely different question. Where do I actually want my money to go? He didn't sell the house. He didn't overhaul his life overnight. He just started small and stayed with it. A little money moved automatically into investments before it had the chance to quietly disappear elsewhere. An emergency fund, rebuilt one paycheck at a time, and a shift in how he measured winning, not by what he owned, but by how much of his own cash flow he actually controlled. A few months in, the 28th stopped being a day he dreaded. For the first time in a long while, there was something left over. Not much, but it was growing. If there's a shape to what changed, it's this. Pay your future first. Keep your biggest fixed costs in check and let your money go to work instead of just sitting quietly inside four walls. Mark didn't get rich overnight, but he changed the one thing that actually mattered, his direction. The house was never the villain. You just needed to see the faucet dripping beneath it. A house can keep you warm, but it's the cash flow you control that keeps you free. The real question was never rent or buy. It's whether your money is building walls or building your future. If Mark reminded you of yourself, tell us below. Is your house building your wealth or quietly draining it? Subscribe, and let's keep seeing money a little more clearly, 1 week at a time. You're still on time.